Good morning, everyone. The January 28, 2016 Veterans Land Board meeting will come to order. First item on the agenda is approval of the minutes from the October 29, 2015 VLB meeting. After my colleagues have had a chance to review the minutes, assuming no objections, comments, or questions, I can entertain a motion and a second to approve those minutes.
I'll move approval.
I'll second.
Motion is made, seconded, and carried unanimously to approve the minutes. Next item on the agenda is number 2, which is the consideration and action on naming an executive secretary for the Veterans Land Board of the state of Texas. There is not a presentation in this connection, so at this time, assuming no objections, questions, comments, I can entertain a motion and a second. To be very clear and for the record, the appointment would be for Matt Ellich to serve as the Executive Secretary for the Veterans Land Board of the state of Texas.
I'll move.
I'll second.
Motion is made, seconded, and carried unanimously to approve item number 2. Next item on the agenda is number 3, which is a consideration action on resident room rates in the David A. Glower Texas State Veterans Home Program and other matters in connection therewith.
Good morning, Mr. Chairman, members. For the record, Rusty Martin, Chief Investment Officer. The purpose of this agenda item is to discuss resident room rates in the David A. Gloyer Texas State Veterans Home Program. Just a way of background, over the past 10 years, we have raised rates in the rooms only 4 times and on average about 2%. The rest of the time, through cost containment, high average occupancy levels, and contract negotiations with operators, we've managed to avoid raising resident room rates at all in the homes. I'm happy to say to you that due to continually sustained high occupancy levels, continued successful cost containment, and a recent increase in the per diem amounts that are associated with the 70% or higher service-connected disability residents, programmatic cash flow in the program is very healthy. Therefore, I'm recommending that the board, for the first time ever, actually reduce resident room rates in all of the homes by $3 per day per resident for the period March 2016 through February 2017. For informational purposes, in December of this year, December of 2015, Veterans Home staff completed an ad hoc survey of private nursing homes in various areas around the state in which we operate. While the survey is only anecdotal in nature, the results still provide important information when we compare room rate structures in our homes to those of other facilities across the state. The results indicate that after taking into account the VA per diem that non-70% service-connected disability veterans receive, which is currently averaging about $100 per day, the daily room rates that we charge in our homes are significantly lower than the averages of the surveyed facilities. For example, the average room rate across the state for a semi-private room is about $142 a day. In comparison, the net semi-private room rate in the homes for a non-ANA, non-70% service-connected disability veteran would be about $43 per day. The survey also indicated that the average room rate across the state for a semi-private Alzheimer room is about $160 per day. Making the adjustments that I just described to our room rates for Alzheimer's, it's about $60 a day. So the savings are phenomenal already. They're even more enhanced when you take into account that the average room rate across the state contained in the survey do not include the cost of medications, while the room rates in our program do include the cost of medications. Therefore, I'm recommending that the board reduce resident room rates in the homes for the period March 2016 through 2017 in accordance with the schedule that's attached. It is, as I said, a $3 per resident per day reduction across all of the homes. I'm happy to make this recommendation, and I'm happy to answer any questions you may have.
How cool is that? You know, how many people reduce their rates? That's great.
None.
It's just terrific. I move approval.
Any day that we can help veterans get their benefits, more affordably is a great day. So thank you to you and everybody on the VLB staff for taking the initiative to recognize that and to move in this direction. And I'm very proud to second this.
Amen.
And before the motion carries unanimously, I want to commend you, Rusty, and also the rest of the team for all that you do to keep veterans in your mind. This is a big day for the VLB, and we'll make sure to get this out in the community and convey the good word. And it's making us look good in light of all the great work that you put forth. So
Make sure the VA knows that we did this.
We're just doing our job. Thank you very much. I appreciate the
So for the
accolades.
record, motion is made, seconded, and carried unanimously to approve item number 3. Next item on the agenda is number 4.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, members. This is an item we put on the agenda each time to discuss housing rates, primarily in the rates primarily in the housing program. As you can see from the attachment that you have in your package, our current base rate is 3.65%. That's 50 basis points below the most recent constructed benchmark of 4.15. Just by way of update on housing demand, to remind you, in fiscal year 2015, we made about $376 million in new loans, which was about 21% below fiscal year 2014 and about 14% below the last 3 fiscal years' average of about $436 million. Demand during fiscal year 25 averaged about $31 million a month. So far in 2016, and that's through November, 3 months, the demand has averaged about $69 million per month. So a significant increase. Our average loan size for fiscal year 2014 was about $235,000. In 2015, it was about $246,000, and so far this year, it's about $254 million. As I said, demand in 2015 was below 2014, but we addressed that in late May with a change in the rate-setting mechanism. And at the time, if you'll recall, I said we would put it in place and monitor it and see what kind of impact it had on demand. So it appears to have had significantly increased demand over the remainder of the fiscal year. In a normal period, rate locks run about $50 to $60 million per month. However, we're currently running about $80 million per month in rate locks. They don't all pull through, but a certain percentage of them does. And this elevated level is probably due to a combination of a few things. It's certainly probably due to lower rates under the new benchmark model that we introduced in May. But I think it's also coupled with a general feeling of anxiety among potential borrowers about how movements by the Federal Reserve are going to influence mortgage rates in the near future. There probably is quite a bit of confusion about how the Federal Reserve interacts with long-term rates. And I think that we saw, as the Fed, as you know, has become more and more vocal in recent years about providing what they call guidance for what they're going to do in the future. They were pretty vocal towards the end of the year about starting to raise the federal funds rate, and of course that hasn't been raised in many, many years. So I think it created quite a bit of anxiety, and people thought maybe they would be missing the boat if they didn't get into the program as soon as possible. At any rate, it's created a significant amount of demand in the program. Currently, we set the weekly base rate at a spread of 50 to 65 basis points below the benchmark. However, in order for me to better control that demand and bring it back into a normal range, I'm recommending that you expand that spread range to 25 to 60 basis points below the constructed benchmark. It should provide the flexibility that we need to stabilize the demand and then see how it works out the rest of the year. We will continue to monitor the program course as always and report back to you periodically with further recommendations. Happy to answer any questions.
So we're going to shrink the spread, is that right? Yeah, basically.
Well, I'm asking for the flexibility to shrink the spread as appropriate to stabilize that
Okay.
demand.
All right. Okay. And you need a motion to do that?
Can you discuss how that would be implemented if we pass this?
So probably what I will do is incrementally shrink that spread, maybe 5 basis points at a time. I don't know. It depends on what the overall market is doing. But I'll incrementally shrink it until we stabilize that demand and keep the rate locks from increasing. And then we'll see how it works through the system that way.
So there's a chance that you might go back down then if you get it stabilized? Or
Oh,
you-
sure.
Yeah, okay,
Absolutely.
okay. Well, full disclosure, I just closed my Texas Veterans Land Board loan and caught the bottom, I think.
Oh, congratulations.
I hope.
Good for you.
Good timing.
Good timing, absolutely. I wore Rusty out those on emails. Tell me where we are, tell me where we are. And we got it closed under the wire. I'll move approval on that.
And I'll second.
Motion is made, seconded, and carried unanimously to approve item number 4. Next item on the agenda is number 5, as stated.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Members, this is a quarterly investment report for the period ended September 30th of 2015. It is a non-action item. We place it on the agenda at the request of the state auditors. Third quarter 2015 saw a GDP increase at an annual rate of about 2%. That was after an increase of almost 4% in the second quarter, so quite a slowdown. That was primarily reflected decelerations in exports, non-residential fixed investments, state and local government spending, and personal consumer expenditures, coupled, of course, with a decrease in private inventory investment. These increases were partially offset by a deceleration in imports. Current census indicates that the average GDP growth for all of 2015 would be about 3%. Also, during the period, unemployment fell to 5.1% from 5.3% the quarter before. The Fed left policy unchanged during that quarter, leaving Fed funds rate at 0 to 0.25, but of course it signaled that an increase was approaching, which they followed through on in December by raising Fed funds by a quarter. They're also maintaining their current policy of reinvesting principal payments from their holdings in agency mortgage-backed securities and rolling over maturing Treasury securities at auction, and they still are also doing that. That policy should help maintain accommodative financial conditions. And again, they also reiterated they would take a balanced approach when it finally does begin to remove its policy accommodation, and they will keep Fed funds target low even after employment and inflation are near their mandate consistent levels. The portfolio itself, as you know, focuses primarily on providing liquidity and cash flow necessary to meet continued loan purchase and debt service requirements in the programs, while still preserving principal. And we do that through high-quality investments, typically composed of high-quality commercial paper, short-term Treasury, agency, and taxable municipal bonds. The duration for the period was unchanged from the quarter before at 3.99 years. We have a target of average duration of about 3.5 to 4 years during 2015. If you'll turn to the third page of the report, looking at Table 2, you'll see the returns for the quarter. The portfolio returned 1.38% for the quarter. The benchmark was 0.23%. Total return for year-to-date was 1.5% versus 0.7% for the benchmark. And our one-year total return in the program is 3.08% versus 0.83%. As I said, this is a non-voting item, but I'm happy to answer any questions.
I have no questions, just a comment. You do an excellent job of managing that portfolio.
Thank you. I appreciate that.
No questions.
Excellent. Next item on the agenda is number 6, as stated.
Good morning, Mr. Chairman, members of the board. For the record, my name is Charlotte Mumford, Director of Loan Operations. There are no appeals before you today.
Considering there are no appeals, this is a non-voting item. Next item on the agenda is number 7, as stated.
There were 14 tracts offered during the FLS online bidding period of December 7, 2015 through January 26, 2016, We received 93 bids, resulting in 13 high bids. Staff is requesting the board award all bids that meet qualifications for the land program. The remaining one track will roll over to the Type 2 program. I will be happy to answer any questions you may have.
I'll move.
Second.
Motion is made, seconded, and carried unanimously to approve item number 7. Next item on the agenda is number 8, as stated.
Staff is requesting the board take forfeiture action on the resolutions before you, except accounts where sufficient funds are received to avoid action. 25 accounts are being presented for a forfeiture action today. I will be happy to answer any questions. We have a few counts that are less than $5,000 on the resolution. We'll continue to work with those account holders with those low principal balance to see if we can mitigate that and get them in a positive action.
Questions?
I move approval.
I'll second.
Motion is made, seconded, and carried unanimously to approve item number 8. Next item on the agenda is number 9, as stated.
Staff is requesting the board take action on the resolution before you. The resolution lists accounts to be ordered for sale action today. These 8 accounts will become the tracks for the next forfeited land sale. We're requesting the board's authority to pull any account that fully reinstates prior to the sale date. I will be happy to answer any questions you may have.
They get fewer and fewer.
Yes, sir.
The economy's turning around. I'll move approval on that.
Second.
Motion is made, seconded, and carried unanimously to approve item number 9. Next item on the agenda is number 10, as stated.
Staff is requesting that the board set the next quarterly electronic forfeited land sale bidding period to begin March the 7th, 2016, with the bidding deadline of April the 26th, 2016 at 5 p.m.
I'll move approval.
Second.
Motion is made, seconded, and carried unanimously to approve item number 10.
Thank you.
Thank you. Next item on the agenda is Mr. McLemore presenting 11, as stated.
For the record, I'm Bill McLemore, Deputy Director of the VLB Loan Program. The next 2 agenda items, item 12 is a disaster relief initiative similar to the disaster relief initiative you've approved previously. Homes in 16 counties are damaged or destroyed from October 22nd to October 31st, 2015 as a result of severe storms, tornadoes, straight-line winds, and flooding. On November the 25th, a major disaster declaration for Texas on individual properties was declared by the President and the Governor. While many veteran homeowners will have the coverage that will assist with repairs and rebuilding, many again will not have insurance or be underinsured and will have even fewer options. Therefore, the staff is proposing the establishment of a second VLB disaster relief initiative within the Veterans Housing and Home Improvement Programs. The initiative would be administered by the chairman and the executive secretary as directed by the chairman under those same parameters that we discussed the last time. If you want me to go over those, I will. If not, recommendation from the staff is that the approval of the initiative for the severe storms, tornadoes, straight-line winds from October 22nd to 31. Just for your edification, off that last disaster relief initiative, which is the first one we've ever done, we've gotten 3 shows of interest. Only about 2 applications have been processed. You still have to be creditworthy and have the ability to repay loans regardless of what we loan you. So some of those have some credit issues that we're working with, but they've exhausted all their FEMA eligibility as well as any insurance requirements they have. We still, we can go up all the way. You gave us the authority to consider those applications that went 1 year past the disaster declaration date. So that was May. So we've still got until May of this year. My experience with these disaster relief reconciliations of both their insurance as well as any FEMA grants, it takes at least a year to get that stuff done. So there still may be some pent-up demand out there. And we would expect that this one, that if you approved it, it would go through November the 25th, 2016. It'd take us about a year's worth of opportunity for those folks to exercise this option.
let me understand something, Bill. These are existing loans, these are not new loans.
It would provide for a new loan for a home that was totally destroyed. And it would give you a quarter point off the interest rate. You add,
And 0% on the home improvement.
and 0% on the home improvement.
And what is the amortization on that home improvement loan?
The way it would work would be, we would take the current principal balance, if there was a principal balance on that home loan, and add to it the home improvement loan that they were above 50, that they were wanting to make, and that would be the appraised value of that home that time. So,
Okay,
all right.
all right.
So would it be added to the first mortgage, or would it be a secondary mortgage?
It would be a second mortgage if there was a lien
You'd have the
against
first
their
mortgage at
home.
one rate, the second mortgage at a completely separate rate, but those two would operate in conjunction?
You talk about the disaster relief. The disaster relief program would operate the same way our current Veterans Housing Improvement Loan Program would operate. Only difference would be a no-interest loan. This would be in no greater position than a second lien position, a home improvement loan. No greater than a second lien.
So it follows the amortization of the first lien.
That is correct. But right now, realize, before this next presentation I give you, we're only doing insured HUD $25,000 minimum home improvement loans.
Okay.
Why is demand so low for the last disaster relief that we did?
Well, one of the things is that, we haven't promoted and marketed this thing to any great extent. What we did do was to make sure that those 111 counties that were impacted during the last event, letters went out, emails went out to all the county veteran service officers within those counties and the commissioner's court within those counties, as well as an information packet was provided to the entire legislative delegation, both the House and the Senate, to make them aware that this was available for those 111 impacted areas. We did have some interest from the state legislature about those that were not impacted, that they had a public disaster declaration, but not individual disaster declarations. Tarrant County was one of those, and they queried us about that. So they were aware of it. I suspect still the problem is that it takes about a year minimum before you exhaust your insurance, if there's any real claim against it, or if you don't have the insurance, before you exhaust your FEMA grant eligibility determination. My experience with the Bastrop wildfires was it took 2 to 3 years to do that. Now, you all have limited us to 1 year from the date of the declaration of the disaster. You may want to consider expanding that at some point, depending upon the demand for these. These are initial programs. We're still trying to feel our way through these things and come back to you with maybe some changes, recommended changes.
Well, and Bill, there's also the question, I think, that we discussed last time regarding the possibility of fraud, correct? If we overly marketed this to the communities and, regretfully, that's a byproduct of programs, loan programs like this in disaster-stricken communities. And so finding that balance will be a challenge. But maybe one way we can look at, or one suggestion would be to, in programs like this, to have a marker, meaning that a veteran communicates to us to say, we're working through the FEMA process, and it could very well take 2 to 3 years, which would allow us to maybe amend the policy with respect to the last
And we think
disaster.
that we almost have a way we can do that now. If they make a pre-application that, but for resolving this FEMA grant application and but for resolving my insurance that's still in contention, we have applied for this authority. And I think the intent of what you gave us was, as long as that application was received within a year from the declaration, we could consider that.
And that's what I wanted to be clear on, just for the record, is you're seeking approval to the board for a reduction in the interest rate, but we're not talking indefinitely, what is the specified time period you're seeking approval for?
During this 1 year period, from the time period would go from the declaration, and that one was May or early June of last year to May or early June of this year in terms of offering the reduced interest rate
Okay.
and in terms of offering the no interest rate on the home improvement loan. Go ahead.
Anthony Vargas, Office of General Counsel. The term was established at 1 year at a previous meeting, so the term is currently 1 year. If we want to revisit that term and extend it, that will have to be another agenda item for a future meeting.
Well, I believe we will have a quarterly meeting before that time, so we can revisit perhaps, and with respect to the first disaster initiative, not this initiative.
Got it, sir.
Move approval.
I second, and I will also add that that would be something that I would be interested in hearing about, is extending that first time frame. Extending the time frame of the first disaster relief program, at least having a discussion about it at the next meeting, so calendaring that as an agenda item.
That'd be on the next agenda then.
Right.
Okay, sir.
Motion is made, seconded, and carried unanimously to approve item number 11. Next item on the agenda is number 12, as stated.
Agenda item 13 is an initiative to evaluate the demand for home improvement loans above $25,000. And the question before the board is, should the board increase the Veterans Home Improvement Loan limit that's currently set at $25,000? It currently provides a VLB home improvement loan that's insured by the by FHA of up to $25,000. The FHA insured amount has not increased since its inception, nor is it expected to increase anytime in the future. As a result, there's been some increasing interest in raising the maximum VHIP loan limit. One example is energy efficiency activities that they're trying to, home improvements they're trying to make. You just can't make any substantive, either solar or wind energy initiative home improvements for anything less than about $50,000. And that's been most of our interest so far on these programs. In response, the staff developed a proposal for the board's consideration that would allow the staff to administer a 1-year pilot project providing an additional home improvement loan product of up to $50,000 and under the following general conditions. Number one, all of the existing FHA and underwriting and eligible improvement guidelines, as well as the current program guidelines, would apply. The home must appraise for an amount that's equal to or greater than the existing principal balance, if there was a first lien already on the home, and any proposed liens with this home improvement loan. The initiative would be a pilot project, be in effect for 1 year, to determine if the demand for such loans. On or before the expiration of 1 year from today's date, the staff would report back to the board, probably 3 quarters from now, to tell you what demand we have been experiencing and whether or not we should go forward with this as a program rather than just a temporary initiative. Now, gotta warn you that once you do a pilot project, it's hard to undo a pilot project. You all have been around a long time, you understand that. So there may be a lot of persuasion at the end of that publicly to continue this project. Currently, 100% of all of our Veterans Housing Assistance Program loans, both housing loans and home improvement loans, are insured, 100%. The Natural Resources Code allows us, requires the board to maintain insurance to cover at least 50% of that balance. But 50% of them, up to 50%, can be uninsured or what we would call self-insured loans. The home improvement loan program itself constitutes less than 10% of the overall Veterans Home and Program portfolio. The proposed courses of action that we recommend are that we continue the current VLB FHA insured home improvement loan program of $25,000 as the default loan, unless a higher amount above that is requested. The loan must follow HUD guidelines, and it must be, as it currently is, no less than a second lien position. If a higher amount is requested, whether the homes have an existing mortgage or for homes that are free and clear, we offer a VLB uninsured home improvement loan of up to $50,000, but in no less than a second lien position. In fact, for the VHIP home loans with an existing mortgage, that would be in a second lien, the home improvement loan would be in a second lien position. But for those that are free and clear, this $50,000 loan would be in a first lien position. So the staff recommends that we accept those two proposed courses of action, continue, and then offer the $50,000. And to do that for a one-year period.
What do we think demand is going to be for that product, for the $50,000 product? How many veterans are calling in asking for home improvement loans above $25,000?
I think part of the problem, to answer that question, is we don't really know. We've had some interest in why don't we, I need some energy improvements, but I can't make them. So they already know that it's going to cost more than $25,000. So there's no recorded demand. I suspect, we're, depending upon how we market, if we market at all, other than making people aware that this has occurred, and maybe the county service officers are aware that it has occurred, but not any paid advertisement of this project, of this pilot project, that we would have some gradual growth. One of the things that Rusty and I have discussed is the amount that we want to maybe cut this thing off or slow it down. And that should be no more. Right now, the home improvement loan program costs us we do about $6 million a year in home improvement loans, about $6 million a year. We'd like to cut it off at about $10 million. So we're not expecting within this project period for it to double. We're expecting it to perhaps go up to about another $4 million and $50,000 loans.
Out of curiosity, what if you had to speculate in terms of total defaults within this area of our loan programs? It's 10% of the overall housing loan portfolio that we carry at the VLB. As is with the criteria set before us, what is the current default?
Since the inception of the program, we've only had 236 defaults, and we've only had one foreclosure that resulted from that default.
And how many loans?
Remember, on those that defaulted, the insurance, the FHA insurance paid for the loan. Now, if at the end of that, FHA could go against those, could put a lien against that amount that they've paid off in that insurance for the defaulted loan.
We're talking about a default rate of 1%, right?
Less than 1%.
And then for the uninsured component of a, let's say, defaulted loan, is the VLB portfolio liable for that 100% or?
Yes, sir.
I'll move approval.
Second.
Motion is made, seconded, and carried unanimously to approve item number 12. Next item on the agenda is number 13 as stated.
Good morning, Mr. Chairman, members. Anthony Vargas, Office of General Counsel. At the last board meeting, the board approved a motion to open Title 40, Part 5, Chapters 175 through 178 of the Texas Administrative Code for review. After that motion was carried, the Office of General Counsel issued a notice of rule review to the Secretary of State. That was published and allowed 30 days for public comment. We did not receive any public comment, and staff has reviewed chapters 175 through 178 and recommends a change to chapter 178, particularly Rule 178.6, which deals with the interment fees for spouses of eligible veterans. If you recall, at the last board meeting, the board granted a temporary waiver of that rule to allow for fee-free burial of eligible relative spouses. And since that time, that was October 29th, since that time to the present day, approximately 70 veteran spouses have been interred at veteran cemeteries at no cost to them. So that's definitely a good thing that the VLB has done for the spouses of those that have served our country. Staff now would like to make that rule change permanent and no longer require that temporary waiver, but amend the rule to eliminate the fees for spouses. So if you look at the attachment to the memo for agenda item 13, you can see the red line change that staff recommends, and that's simply removing the language that requires fees for the burial of spouses. If the board approves this language, the Office of General Counsel will send to the Secretary of State a notice of proposed rulemaking. That is out for 30 days for public comment. If we receive no public comment, if the board approves this language right now, if we receive no public comment, we'll then issue a statement of reason for rule adoption and an agency order for rule adoption. We'll send that to the Secretary of State, and then that rule change becomes effective 20 days after we send it to the Secretary of State. If we do receive public comment, we'll take that comment and those comments into consideration, perhaps revise the language some more based on those comments, and then we will represent those revisions to the board. So staff recommends that the board at this time approve the red line language for Rule 178.6 of the Texas Administrative Code, and if the board approves and we receive no public comment, then this rule change will be adopted into the Texas Administrative Code. I'd be happy to answer any questions.
I move approval.
I'll second. One question that I have out of curiosity, the second clause of this redlined Rule 178 where it says a TSVC shall apply no charges for disinterment, is that new language?
No, that is existing language. So everything that you see here, A, B, and C, that's all existing language that is currently codified in the Texas Administrative Code. What we are proposing is to eliminate that part of Section B that requires fees for the interment of veteran spouses.
Okay. All right, I'll second.
And then just one quick comment. I had a chance to visit our cemetery in Killeen earlier this week and visited with the widow of a veteran, and she wanted to tell me and communicate to the rest of the team that thanks to this policy that we're codifying today, that she can afford to be able to lie next to her loved one. And already we're seeing success with the amount of numbers of folks stepping forward. So once again, I commend each and every one of you for the hard work, and big bravo Zulu for each and every one of you.
And for the record, this is Eric Brown and Bill McLemore that are requesting this. I just did the legal work on this.
You're just a lawyer?
I'm just the lawyer. They deserve the credit, and absolutely, it's a good thing that we're doing for the veteran spouses.
Duly noted. Motion is made, seconded, and carried unanimously to approve item number 13. Next item on the agenda is number 14 as stated.
Good morning. Tracy Hall, Internal Audit. You have in front of you a copy of the approved 2016 audit plan involving both the General Land Office and the VLB. The risk assessment as listed in front of you, we compiled as according to that process where we used interviews from management, we used agency information, and compiled the ranking information based on the 15 factors that you have in front of you. We ranked all of these factors on a case of 1 to 3, and we weighted them also on a range of 1 to 3. And the resulting audit plan is attached. The items that relate to VLB or the VLB Veterans Homes contract, operations contract, the agency audit budget and planning process, There's also an audit of the VLB loan program that was carried forward from last year that is also ongoing. Since the plan was approved in October, it has already been started, and we've already implemented the first set of audits. This is an informational item. I'd be happy to answer any questions that you have.
I have no questions.
No questions.
This being a non-action item, we can proceed with item number 15 as stated. Thank you, Tracy.
Thank you.
This product is just the VLB marketing loan operation production report, essentially for the first 4 months, September, October, November, and December. And it shows, the good news is, it shows that we are on track to meet all of every one of our loan marketing and loan production goals, and that we currently are ahead of where we were this time last year. If we keep that up, we'll be grossing about $15 million to the fund with interest income through the first year after closure. And our budget's about $3.5 million a year, so we're netting you about $10 million a year. That does help cemeteries and other folks out that need it.
Good.
Any questions?
None for me.
No questions.
Thank you, gentlemen.
This being a non-voting item and there being, oh, Part B, I'm sorry. I suppose we should get an update on homes, right, Mr. Berkeley?
Certainly. Good morning. John Berkeley, Deputy Director for the Texas State Veterans Homes. This briefing is informational only and does not require any board action. On December 28th, the Veterans Land Board received notice of a grant award for a 120-bed nursing facility in the Houston area. The VA covers 65% of the cost of construction, and this grant is for VA funding of approximately $22.7 million. Total construction cost is estimated to be $34.9 million. We are in the process of determining a location for the home in either Harris, Fort Bend, or Brazoria counties. The soil conditions at the original site that we had identified next to the Richmond State School are not suitable for building due to expansive clay. We have a goal of having a site selected with deed in hand by May 31st. Are there any questions, please?
Have we had anybody stepping up and showing interest in
We
donating
have.
some land?
I have to praise Ken Wallingford. He's been reaching out to Veteran Service officers in all of the Brazoria, Harris, and Fort Bend. We're also working with the George Foundation. So we've had interest. One of the conditions is that the property has to be at little or no cost to the VLB, and also utilities and any connection fees have to be waived by the city. And so that is a challenge, and trying to find 25 acres in a fairly square pattern, but we have progress and we have identified some potential sites. Okay. Anything else? Any other questions? All right.
No questions.
Thank you.
This being a non-voting item and there being no further business before the Veterans Land Board this morning, the meeting is hereby adjourned.
You get to go to the Killeen Cemetery.
Yeah, second visit. First year I hit all 4 cemeteries.